Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on January 8, 2025, the first meeting of this new year in the council chambers at the Municipal Administration Center. Roll call this evening, Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Prenger.
Present.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray. Councillor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
Thanks for being.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibway Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibway Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis.
Are there any amendments, additions, or deletions to or from the agenda this evening? Seeing none, remind councillors to disclose any pecuniary interest either now or as it arises in the meeting and the general nature thereof. So we need a mover and seconder for the adoption of minutes from regular and special meetings of council, that the minutes of the council meetings held on December 4, 2024, December 10, 2024, and December 11, 2024 be adopted as printed. Moved by councillors Williams and Kavanaugh. All in favor? Those are carried. All right, so we move into a public meeting to address zoning amendment file number Z 2024-046. So this is a public meeting under the Planning Act. So if anyone from the public is interested in this application or wishes to receive a notice of the decision, you can either, there's a sign-up sheet at the There's a sign-up sheet just outside the door in the entrance where you can leave your contact information, or you can send an email to Bruce County Planning to be on that list. First, we'll receive a report from the planning staff. Then council members will have an opportunity to ask questions of a technical nature, but I will ask them to reserve their comments on the application itself until we've heard from the public. Then we hear from the public who are here in person, virtually, or who have submitted correspondence. So members of the public are advised that the right to appeal the decision on this application is limited to specified persons and public bodies as defined in the Planning Act, or the owner or applicant of the land subject to the amendment who have provided oral or written comments to council on the application before the decision is made. So after we've heard from the public, council will discuss and consider a recommendation on this application. So I now declare the public meeting open, and I would ask Senior Planner Karina Smith to present the application. And Ms. Smith is online with us this evening. Good evening. Glad to have you here, and we're looking forward to your report.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year to Council. So the application before you is a zoning bylaw amendment application to facilitate a surplus farm dwelling severance. It would sever approximately a 1.4 hectare lot from a 60 hectare agricultural parcel, which is located at 517 Concession 7. The amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to rezone the proposed severed lands from general agriculture to general agriculture special, to prevent development of a future residential dwelling on the property. A holding provision is proposed, requiring an archaeological assessment on those lands that have high archaeological potential. There are currently environmental protection zoned lands on the site, and that environmental protection zone is proposed to remain unchanged. There is a related consent application for the severance, which will be considered by the county at a later date. Based on our review of both provincial policy and county policy. We've identified that the current owner of the property is not a bona fide farmer, but they are looking to retain the existing dwelling on the property. The remaining agricultural lands will be sold to a bona fide farmer who actually owns and operates other lands within Bruce County for agricultural purposes. The severed lot will be limited in size to accommodate the existing dwelling, accessory buildings, septic, and water services. The remaining agricultural lands are proposed to be rezoned, as noted earlier, to prohibit future residential development. The existing dwelling is currently habitable, and therefore we are satisfied that the proposal does meet the policies of both the provincial policy statement and the county official plan. The draft zoning bylaw amendment is attached to your agenda today. We are recommending approval of the application. That concludes my report, and I'll be available for questions should there be any.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions of a technical nature for the planner this evening from members of council? Okay, seeing none, we'll now hear from members of the public. So is the agent or applicant present in the gallery, and would you like to make a presentation? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone else here in the public who would like to speak in support of this application? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Oh, okay. We have Mr. Davidson on online, please.
Yes, good evening.
If you could just identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Ron Davidson. I'm the planning consultant, and I filed the application for consent and zoning bylaw amendments. I just have a couple of quick things to say. Karina did a thorough job in explaining the proposal. I think in front of you in the audience is Lynn Campbell, who owns the property, and Brock Lowry, who is purchasing the property. Brock is a bona fide farmer. He owns 5 other farms in the area, a total of 168 acres, and he lives on one of those farms. So he does qualify to sever a lot under the consent policies in the Bruce County official plan. We're not actually dealing with the consent tonight, as Karina said. We're dealing with the zoning bylaw amendment, and that is simply to attach a no house clause, if you will, on the balance of the farmland. As Karina said, there's only the lot is being kept small. There will be no farmland removed from operation as a result of this severance. Lastly, and not that it's relevant to the application or the merit of the application, but the severance will allow Mr. Campbell actually to stay in his existing home. He's retiring from farming. He's keeping the small residential lot and selling the rest of Brock. So this does work out well. It's I guess a win-win, if you want to call it that. Mr. Mayor, that's all my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Davidson. Okay, are there any written submissions that were not already discussed in the planning report, Ms. Smith?
No.
Okay, thank you. So do any council members have any final questions of a technical nature before we close the public meeting and discuss the application? Okay, in that case, I now declare the public meeting to be closed, and we will consider a recommendation on the application. So we need a mover and seconder. The council approve zoning bylaw amendment Z 2024-046 by Lynn Campbell, and the necessary bylaw be passed. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Stewart. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, and that is carried. Okay, very good. Thank you, Brock, Lynn, for being here tonight. Appreciate that. We move on to delegations and presentations. First, we have Tyler Johnson, who'll be making a presentation on behalf of the Huron Shores ATV Club. Tyler, please, welcome. So our procedural bylaw talks about 5-minute presentations, just so that we sometimes presentations can be exceedingly long. So you get to introduce yourself, and then Ms. Bowman here is going to throw a clock up on the screen so you know when the trap door opens under your feet and you disappear into the basement. So it's just
No problem.
Just so you're aware.
Understood.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'd just like to verify, can everybody hear me on the microphone?
Yeah,
Okay,
as long as you stay close to it, you'll be fine.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Thanks everybody for having me here tonight. My name is Tyler Johnson. I'm the club president for the Huron Shores ATV Club. So we look after the trail system here in Bruce County. Mainly we look after the Bruce County Rail Trail, but we do have some county forest properties. We're looking to expand our avenues with the ATV Club. With some of the most recent bylaw changes last year for ATVs, we've gotten a lot more access in Bruce County. So I'll get right into it. So this delegation request talks about Side Road 30 in the municipality of Kincardine. So thank you again for having me here this evening. Our mission statement is to provide ATV riders and their families a recreational opportunity while respecting the environment through responsible and safe riding. Our vision statement is to build a network of user-friendly ATV trails that inspire people to experience the beauty of Bruce County and the villages we pass through. So why support Huron Shores ATV Club? So we carry 15 million trail liability policy. So that's indemnification for any of our trails that we have. Cost sharing on maintenance projects, gates, signage replacement, trail repairs. We do tourism. We are in benefit of tourism and economic benefit for ATVing in the municipality of Kincardine. You're also given volunteer hours. So we have volunteers that perform administrative duties, including processing the permits, inquiring about fees, and fielding any technical questions about the website and under their interactive map. And the volunteers also support trail inspections and upkeep of maintenance, signage replacement, wing and gate replacement, and mapping. We also have access to capital funding and investment provided on municipal properties to create new trails. So this request to council. So Side Road 30, HSATV requests to install wayfinders like what the OFC uses for trail arrows, so the blue and white ones, except we'd like to use green and white ones, from South Kinloss Ave to 1361 Side Road 30 Kincardine. So this is it's mainly a no winter maintenance road all the way through that gives us an opportunity to access the rail trail in a different location. HSATV acknowledges that there is an unassumed road allowance from concession 9 to concession 11 on Side Road 30. And HSATV would request for council to review potentially entering into a land use agreement with us and the municipality of Kincardine, where HSATV use, signs, and maintains the road allowance, as well as indicate on our maps that the trail route is approved for ATV to use if council approves this request. So benefits for the club. So from Kincardine, it's approximately 39.77 kilometers from Kincardine to the Bruce County Rail Trail, almost the same distance as the current road connection used by users, parallel to Highway 21. From the trail ending at Walker's Line, concession 12, so this is our south end where a lot of our county forests are and our current trail connection, up to the rail trail would be 40 kilometers, and this would save users 15.4 kilometers of road running if we could get this road connection approved. So the map that we're showing here, this is our current trail map. The areas in brown are just approved roads that ATVs can use. Side Road 30 is the one that's proposed in yellow. There's the section of the unassumed road allowance between concession 9 to concession 11. So right now the OFSC uses it in the wintertime. We would like to use it in the summertime. Typically our season runs from May 1st to October 31st. And as part of that, we would look after doing the maintenance, setting up the signs, fixing any ruts and repairs that the ATVs or ruts and issues that the ATVs would cause to ensure that when it's turned over to the OFSC in the wintertime, that they don't have any issues with grooming activities. Is there any questions with the delegation this evening?
So thank you, Mr. Johnson. As per the procedure bylaw, of course, you can ask questions for clarity, but you know, the best that we can do on any delegation is to refer to staff or another process. We don't make decisions as following delegations like this, but certainly if there are any questions, we can offer opportunity to hear them. Any questions from council? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, we have 480 square miles of roads. Would you like to look after all of them? He was planning to look after. Anyways, more serious note, I'm Ward 2 councillor, so this is right across the side road 30. The only concern I have, I can support this when it comes back through staff. What I'd like you and your group to do, there's quite an Amish community around, 11 and 9 and everything else, and they have the horse and buggies and everything. Your equipment is a little bit louder than a car. It would be nice for you to go out there and maybe talk to them, or you can come to one of our managers. Corey actually has a great relationship with the bishops and everything else. But I think it's important that you sort of get the community flavor on this to make sure, because I can support this as long as the community supports it. So well done. I think it will be a great plus for everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. I was just curious as to whether the ATV has any shared trails with the snowmobilers that exist now, like that you have a good relationship or you use it in the summertime and that they're able to use it in the wintertime.
Yeah, so currently we actually have a couple properties. So obviously the Bruce County Rail Trail, there's sections of the Bruce County Rail Trail that the OFSC uses in the wintertime that we take over assisting with maintenance in the summertime. So obviously they have it from December 1st until their season ends, and then we will preemptively do trail inspections throughout the month of April as pre-checks. May 1st we would intend to open, and then at that point we would have our season from May 1st until October 31st. So that's the Bruce County Rail Trail. We also share a property with them at the South Kinloss tract outside of Lucknow, in here in Kinloss Township. We have a shared trail through there. And we've been good with that. And then we also share a road allowance on Walker's Line between Karashi Ave and Bruce County Road 6. It's an unassumed road allowance as well. And we had to pursue a land use agreement with the municipality here in Kinloss on that. And we did get support for that. That particular road allowance, we spent $14,000 this year revitalizing that road allowance to ensure that when we turn it over to our OFSC friends, that they're able to get their season off on the right foot and be able to do the grooming activities that they need to do.
Okay, so I'm just going to seek council concurrence that this gets referred to staff for a more fulsome report and to provide council opportunity to make a decision on this. Straw vote, is that okay? Consensus on that? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your presentation. I appreciate the work that you and your club are doing. Excellent.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome Daryl Perry to the microphone to make a presentation on behalf of the Kincardine BIA. Welcome, Daryl. Good to have you here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a bit shorter than... So my name is Daryl Perry. I'm on the executive for the BIA. I'm here representing not just the BIA executive, which are kind of unanimous on this project, but also the many hospitality businesses specifically that are in the downtown area. So I'm here to present a program that we've been kind of working towards since around August. I have three recommendations that are probably the least stressful recommendations you'll feature during your budgeting time, but will have a maximum return on investment for many issues which we'll go through. So I'll move on through as quickly as I can without going word for word. Okay, this project has been is the result of observations during 2024. As some of you may be aware, during COVID, we, the community, the business community and the hospitality businesses downtown embraced the concept of the very safe outdoor socializing, eating, and having fun with seasonal patios. And we saw a great number of them. We saw challenges which the municipality overcome. We saw challenges and a shift that the BIA executive aligned with, and we're all embracing this great behaviour of socialising outdoors in the summertime. Unfortunately, in 2024, our observations saw a mere 2 survive. That kind of spawned the BI executive into interviewing, I'll say 8. We tried to interview more, but we interviewed 8 of the hospitality businesses downtown in personal interviews, which Sherry from the municipality did participate in. And as a result, we really wanted to understand what the barriers were and why they weren't embracing them in order for us to try and remove those barriers. So I won't go into any more in that, but I will point out that as we're now entering 2025, the BIA has moved back to its primary objective, and that is removing the most important barrier that we have to success downtown for businesses. It's the seasonality element. It's huge downtown. I truly don't think most people understand the challenges it faces, not just to the existing businesses, but to attracting new businesses. And as a result of that challenge, we've gone back to resuming our ability to trying to reduce the seasonality through a number of means. And one of those is as per the recommendations I'm going to present today, and that is to remove those barriers to seasonal patios for those businesses, and to potentially reinforce our advantage of having our beautiful downtown right down on the lake and having our major highway and thoroughfare external to that. And again, that is where seasonal patios kick in. So I'll elaborate on the first one, and that is reduce or remove the cost or the cost of the renting cost of Jersey barriers as it's required via the process the municipality has for seasonal patios or events. This was the number one barrier why each of the 8 interviewed businesses said they would not or did not have a seasonal patio for 2024 or even apply for one. And our recommendation is to reduce or remove that cost of renting Jersey barriers. We understand the reason for their addition to the bylaws, which was in 2021, and we're saying the cost is the real barrier. The second recommendation was to reduce the cost of the application process and the time it takes, so simplifying it to a renewal format. In other words, trying to take a long-term approach to seasonal patios where we can just renew them if nothing's changed for the next season. My final recommendation is recommending that the Spruce the Bruce grants be reinstated for 2025. They were in 2024. The majority, except for one of those 8 hospitality businesses, the majority of them owned a patio. They were invested in seasonal patios. But because of the downtown dig, there were changes to the height of the road and to the footpath, and that means there's a substantial cost of fixing them. So that is my third recommendation. I'm going to assume if there's any questions, you'll ask of them. Won't go into my final page because it does have significant upside to these recommendations to the whole community, not just the businesses involved directly in the patios.
Thank you. Good timing. Well done, Daryl. So once again, if there are any questions for clarifying an issue, And once again, if it's council's determination, we'll refer this to staff for a, for conversation between the BIA and to bring a recommendation back to council, how we can address some of the requests that the BIA executive and membership have made. Any questions for clarity? Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Daryl, for coming tonight. There's on slide 3 at the bottom, there's a couple paragraphs there that might have confused a few of us. When you talk about historically, street events that require the street to be closed have had questionable benefits to businesses, and you're looking at doing fewer of them in 2025. Those events would have had effects on parking during the events, and seasonal patios will have an effect on parking if they happen. Was the intent of putting that in there to reflect that, that in a sense to offset, in some cases, the effect on parking that additional seasonal patios will have by reducing the number of actually street events, and to show that the BIA is not just using a shotgun approach to whatever works for businesses downtown, but based on experience, trying to adjust on what works best?
That note was really specifically worded around our belief that we'll need to overcome the biggest barrier to business downtown, and that's seasonality. So the BIA continues to support events. Events like the Blues Fest are highly valued. However, we feel it's more important for us to tackle the shoulder seasons, to create content and reasons for people to come downtown. As you're aware, we've had, after the big downtown dig, we have more parks on Queen Street than we've ever had before. So I don't see that as a problem when it comes to seasonal patios.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, good presentation. Yes, I'd highly recommend this go back to staff, but that's not totally up to me. Just one question I have. You interviewed 9 other restaurateurs or people like that. If this thing ever got passed by us and got approved, do you think all 8 of them would participate? Is that really the barrier? I don't know the cost. I don't know the revenue. That's up to the staff to bring that back. But do you get the feel that if we decided to support all this, we'd have all 8 back again?
All but one indicated they would be back. And that one was unfortunately limited because they have a turning lane right in front of their business. And so they cannot have a seasonal patio. I would like to just make one quick note to the timing note at the bottom of the presentation. Those businesses felt they made decisions in January for summer. And as a business owner who's been working with projects in the BIA and council for some years, there's a disconnect in the understanding of how fast businesses react to decisions that are made with the municipality. They need a decision in January to make a decision whether they're going to invest in seasonal patios. They're not under the illusion this is coming for free. They're willing to invest. It's a timing issue with them, but for 2025.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Thank you, Daryl, for the presentation. Perhaps you can just help me understand. We'll get the details concerning the cost of the barriers.
Sure.
I think they're perhaps anyways. Is the real issue the cost of renting the barriers, or is it the application process? I know that you had the recommendation for 2, but I think that okay, so Daryl, I'll leave that question with you if or the rental or the process, because you sort of suggest both.
Yeah. I will say the transcripts of those interviews have been forwarded on. Laurie has them, Adam has them, and they're very specific and detailed. The number one barrier for them to have seasonal patios was both the cost, the rental cost, which they're forced to have between May 1st and the end of October. They're forced to pay it. And and the cost of the Jersey barriers, some of the businesses, not all, some of them have already invested in Jersey barriers. They question the need for them. They feel they're overkill.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. I just have a question in terms of timing. So, the potential for us to review cost is something that might be able to happen sooner rather than later. The cost, there have also been some conversations around the scope of the build or how that would all look. What's the timeline look for a business looking to build? They obviously aren't going to be building it in January because it's snowing on the ground, but is that something that can you give us kind of a timeline for when we would need to have an answer on that?
And so I think councillor 7 of the 8 already had patios. Most of them still require them to be modified. That's where the Spruce the Bruce grant comes in, right? Which actually is open now. It is a ticking clock already. Do you know what I mean? So there's a number of elements to it that are within those transcripts identified that there are things that are out of whack. Just the process of filling out all the forms, getting the insurance, all of those things to submit it, and then the waiting to get the approval, that was a month last year. That was a month. So if you add it on to a decision from council, it gets complicated.
Councillor, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, I was just going to follow up and say I was doing a bit of a jurisdictional scan, and there's an increasing number of municipalities that are moving away from kind of a rental fee, recognizing the benefit that these bring to the overall community and the overall economic development. And so,
There a question for clarity, please, Councillor?
yeah. So,
Thank you.
So anyways, I'd like to refer this back to staff to understand the exact cost right now. But it would be beneficial to get that as soon as possible by is there a meeting in early February?
Well,
the 12th?
soon.
Yeah.
CAO, please.
Sure. Our staff can answer the question about the current costs right now and the grant that's available. Yep.
Through you, Mayor Craig. So Spruce the Bruce offers grants for patios. This year for 2025, there's a 50% grant available up to $4,000. And the Jersey barrier cost, there's a setup fee of $235.38 for the Jersey barriers, and then a rental fee of $13.23 per barrier per month, and it's a 6-month piece. So depending upon how many barriers they have, then that would be the cost. So again, it's different depending upon the space.
So our staff does have numbers available already, but certainly it is appropriate for them to provide some recommendations and guidance for council in the near term. So do you have another question for clarity in the presentation?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Based on what you said, and the fact that we initially invested in this as a response to COVID, have we already, through our rental services, hit the return on investment? Like, have we paid for those barriers already? Okay. And then my question for the presenter. So some folks have purchased their own barriers. So is it a requirement that they have to use our barriers?
Okay, so just a direction from council that we refer this to staff to have, further conversations with the BIA to expedite a decision and brought back to council as soon as possible. So soon as logical.
Well, yeah, do a motion.
Okay, what's the head office doing?
Okay, so the recommendation from our clerk is that we do provide a motion directing staff to bring a report back by such and such a date. So leaning on our CAO, is that a 2-week time frame? Is that a first meeting in February? When would the recommendation be, please?
So
2 weeks
to you.
is too.
So So I guess there's a couple of different components with respect to the request. In part, it's a request that's really appropriate during budget deliberations because it's a request to consider adding something that currently isn't in the budget by compensating fully or partial or even more so. So council could have that portion of the discussion about the process on Monday, if they wish. With respect to a more fulsome patio discussion, obviously that's longer term. A shorter term report with respect to just generally Jersey barriers, I think would be doable within a month. Sorry, at the beginning of February.
So the meeting for February 12th.
So I'm going to offer a motion that we receive two components. We have the financial discussion as part of the budget discussion on Monday. And the initial request for Jersey barriers was about safety. And I think the staff is deserving of opportunity. If it's not Jersey barriers, what is it? We desire to have outdoor experiences, but we also desire to keep our community and our visitors safe. So that would be a return on the 12th of February, as Councillor Stewart responded. Is that appropriate? So that's the motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hinchberger, any more discussion about that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Daryl, for being here tonight.
Thank you for your time.
All right, now we welcome John McManus from the Kincardine Lions Club to talk about the all-wheel park. And this report is a little bit different than the other two in that the request has been submitted for consideration as part of the budget discussion for the municipality. So this is an information update, and the path forward is kind of already determined as far as they ask, John. But we're certainly glad that you and a busload of Lions are here to support the all-wheel park. It's excellent.
Well, thank you very much, and it's great to be back again. On behalf of myself, the All-Wheel Park Project Committee, and as you say, the busload of Lions have come out. Thanks for the 5 minutes. I don't do 5 minutes very well, for those of you who know me. But let's do it. Here we go. Okay, so I don't want to spend an awful lot of time regurgitating a bunch of information that over the last 10 years we've come and provided updates on the project, but I think it's worth recognizing that back in 2011, we proposed an improvement plan for Lions Park. To date, we've redirected about $650,000 into that park. The project has had support from the initial council back in 2011 and subsequent councils. To develop a premier destination for families at Lions Park. One of the things that we had identified back then was a significant gap in the recreational facilities that are available for youth. And youth to us means about 12 to 1,400 kids between the age of 12 and 18 in our community. So the initiative initially included some 12 milestones, the splash pad, the accessible washrooms, trees, picnic tables, blah, blah, blah. And of that, there remain two. The one I want to talk about right now is obviously the all-wheel park. So this body had in fact commissioned McQueen and Galloway Associates to develop a park and recreation strategic plan back in the summer of 2023 that was concluded in, as I understand it, the first quarter of 2024. And some of those key observations recognize that the skate park at the Davis Center, which is in excess of 25 years old, offered various components that were somewhat limited challenge. Recognized that a higher proportion of programs were directed at children and older adults, not the youth of those 1,400 children that I referenced earlier. And the importance of engaging youth, and as well to increase the equity and provide more people with opportunities. The key recommendation in there relating to the all-wheel park was that the municipality should continue to develop the planned all-wheel park with the Lions Club at the Davidson Center. So, I mean, obviously appreciate the support of council over the years in this project. We're definitely very thankful for the ongoing support from the community. We've raised in excess of $300,000 nearing 60% of the project estimated cost. And we strongly feel that we're at that stage right now where it's critical for the municipality to consider some funding for the project in order for us to successfully move forward. And I think what's interesting in pointing out that the strategic report for the recreation facilities in the municipality, the folks that did that work apparently had conducted a survey. A significant number of people, I think some 30% of the responders, had agreed with our position that there's very little in recreational opportunities available locally for youth. So blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read all this. You folks have it. I want to introduce Josh Gordon. It's important that he's got some time here.
Thanks. I got a 2-minute speech, so I'll try to be quick. So my name is Josh Gordon, and I've been working with the Lions Club to help fundraise and provide design input for the all-wheel park that we're building. I grew up in Meaford, Ontario, and I moved to the Kincardine area when I was 22. Now that I'm 41, it's kind of ironic that I am helping with the skate park because I was doing the exact same thing when I was 14 in Meaford. So I just want to just explain a little bit why the skate park was so important to me growing up, because I know it's not a unique story. Meaford, just like Kincardine, is a small hockey town with not a lot for kids to do besides organized team sports, and as we all know, those can be really expensive. I grew up in what I would consider a pretty broken home, and my mom didn't have any money to put me through any sort of hockey programs or anything like that. I ended up getting a used skateboard from one of the older guys, and it gave me the opportunity to do something active and to keep me out of trouble. I had a lot of problems at home, and I used the skate park as my sanctuary. It was a place to have fun and to give me a sense of purpose and to make me feel included in a community of my peers. I noticed a lot of my new friends had similar backgrounds to me, which was really validating. And I met a lot of introverted kids who maybe came from families that had money, but the park allowed them to do something fun and physical that they could do on their own and not necessarily have to deal with all the pressure that can come with organized team sports. And anytime we can get an introverted kid away from a screen and outside doing something physical is obviously super important. It also created lifelong friendships for me and a sense of a community with other riders. A large majority of my friends to this day were people that I met at the skate park. One of my best friends who now lives in Kincardine, I met at the Collingwood skate park when I was 14, and now we both work together at Bruce Power. I'm almost done, about 15 seconds left. I spent every single day at that skate park growing up. It taught me how to have a deep-rooted passion for something, how to have drive, determination, dedication, responsibility. I ended up getting really good at skateboarding, and I got sponsored and competed. And when I moved to Kincardine, I started surfing, and I ended up getting really good at surfing as well, and ended up getting on Team Canada and represented Canada at the World Championships. And to this day, I'm the first surfer from Canada or the US from the Great Lakes to compete at a world level competition. And none of that ever would have happened without skateboarding or without having a skate park in my small town that was built through donations, community fundraising, and through help from the municipality. So these types of things are so important to youth development. And I just wanted to tell you my story and say why it was so important to me. Thank you.
So for that, we gave you the extra minute for free. Well done.
We very much appreciate it. I warned you at the beginning. I'm not good for 5.
Are there any questions to clarify any issues from council members? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And most people know I'm a fellow Lion. We serve, but in Tiverton, but King Cardin, we serve too. A couple of questions I have. You know, the longer we wait for this thing in fundraising, the more expensive it gets. We're finding in council, if you wait a year or two, all of a sudden it doubles or whatever. Do you have a design already? Or is your design ready to go to an R4P? That's one of my questions, please.
Okay, conceptual design. We have a permit from Saugeen Valley. We have topographical surveys of the area where the park will go in. We did some geological test pits to determine what the soil is. I think we're in pretty good shape. We have a conceptual design, and we've got a construction plan with a schedule of 8 to 10 weeks to do it. And yeah, I think we'd be prepared to entertain
Thank you. And through you, Mayor. Yeah, I think, you know, perfect timing. As you know, we're going through budget and we have a budget meeting on Monday. So I can't really say too much tonight but I would definitely want to get behind this. I know some of my fellow councilors, so stay tuned and we'll see what we can do for you in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, through you. And I, too, like my fellow councilors, appreciate your story and the opportunity that a park like this brings to youth in our community. I think that having resources like this are critical. My question is around fundraising. Are you still actively fundraising with the community, or what are the fundraising plans?
Yes, very much so. Yep, ongoing.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Want to thank you, John and Josh, for coming tonight and providing an update. I think it's really important that council and the community get to hear these. And of all transparency, I am a current member of the King Cardin Lions Club, so I will not be able to join in on discussions or decisions being made about this. But I did want to thank you, since it's been a long time since I've been able to go to a meeting. And so I appreciate getting this update, and I hope the rest of the community did too.
Thank you.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Good news. I'm not a Lion and I can vote on this. I just wanted to thank you for your time and dedication and the hard work that you're doing. And I love how prepared you are, and you always get the community behind you because it is for the community. And that's so important. And so I'm really excited about next steps.
Thank you.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you. One of the things that is kind of interesting to me is that I was of the age of the skateboarding when the first park went in. Kind of aging myself a bit there, or not. But I was watching the Olympics with my son, and he was quite intrigued. He's 6, but he was really, really intrigued that skateboarding has been added to the Olympics. And when I'm looking at the draft design that's in here, is this kind of a design something similar to where that would lead to that kind of skateboarding?
Well, you know, Josh might be able to help me out here, but I mean, this is a relatively like a community-sized park of 7,000 square feet. You know, we tried to incorporate, you know, a small bowl in it, and you know, some of the features you'd see in much larger parks. But I think this is more up your alley.
Yeah, so skateboarding is basically getting split between what they call park and what they call street now. And park is like the bowls and the transition skating and the airs and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the street skating are your rails and your grinds and your flip tricks and the more technical kind of stuff. So the park really does serve both. Like the park side of it would be the bowl that you can see, which I believe would be on the south end. And then all the kind of technical stuff is on the other side. That's where you see the stair sets and the grind ledges and the rails and things like that. So it's really kind of all inclusive.
So the other question is there a dictionary that comes with what you just said? No.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
us as well.
So once again, thank you for coming. As we commented at the start, this is part of our budget discussion for Monday. So we don't need to refer this to staff. It's already here. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so you're welcome to stay if you want, but we're moving on to some other things, and I imagine the bus is pulling out of the parking lot pretty soon, so. Okay, moving on, we have some matters for discussion and direction. There were staff reports that were pulled off the consent agenda. Environmental Services compliance report for October, November, December. And I wondered if there were any questions that can be asked of those reports at this time. Okay, no questions? Was there a question? I'm sorry. Oh, Oh, Councillor Hinchberger, I'm sorry.
Thank you through you, Mayor. I'd like to ask a question about the December environmental compliance report, specifically the spill of chlorinated water from the Kincardine water treatment plant. The 371,000 liters of water, that's quite a bit of water. My question is, it spawned out of this, but it's more general. In our water and wastewater treatment operations in the municipality, do we have any operating procedures that require a peer check when they're performed, or some point of verification, whether it's concurrent at the time the operation is being performed or independently afterwards? The choice between the two usually depends on the consequences of a misoperation.
Through you, Mayor Craig. So on a daily basis, we assign different members to various sites or whatever. The process for that is that they are deemed what we call the operator in charge for that site. So they're making overall operational changes, any necessary chemical changes, stuff like that, that they are in theory in charge of the site that they are operating. In addition to that, the municipality is required to have an overall responsible operator, and those duties are often split between the supervisor and myself. So the operator in charge, or any operator, can reach out to a overall responsible operator to question, get advice, expertise, and in making some of those changes. From a day-to-day perspective, I would say no, Councillor Hinchberger. I wouldn't say there's like a peer review or peer check on a monthly basis. Our compliance officer also goes through all more of a data related. So it would be any form of data that would meet compliance limits. So the water systems are built to, I would say, have like checks and lockouts. That's really the balance of how water is built now. So an event like this where we had a spill, the reason we're aware of that is because of checks and balances for like floats alarming, SCADA systems letting staff know that something is wrong, similar to any chemical change we would make on the treatment side of things. So it isn't necessarily, I would say, peer reviewed. It's more reliant on your operations and SCADA programming.
Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I guess my follow-up question to Councillor Hinchberger's question, if we're not using peer checks, do we at least use flagging so that maybe they see that flag still attached on the panel and they haven't closed what they're supposed to, or what have you? Like, is there any mechanism of flagging that would be leveraged? It sounds like we lost more water than anticipated, so our mitigating actions were no longer effective, right? So I'd be curious.
Through you, Mayor. So the event itself was triggered by a previous alarm. So a previous alarm had an effect on treatment process, and what our process is for following that standard operating procedure is to make some changes, SCADA changes, and then discharge that water because it's questionable. So we discharge it to typically sanitary. Once those changes were made, or once that process stopped, the operator felt that there was changes made within this, that he had made the correct changes within the SCADA system, which he had not. So then the next trigger was our plant came online. It was still discharging, and because it, for lack of a better term, overwhelmed the basin we have there, the basin then discharges to the lake. We did have what we would consider, I guess, our contingency set up to be dechlorinating, but the pure volume that we were discharging would not have been fully dechlorinated.
The overarching question, and I think both councillors are touching on it, is whatever was happening, we were still following the policies and the procedures that the environmental services have established to provide clean water for our municipality. Though that's the overarching concern of any of these discussions, that there was no things were being done to protect the quality of our water.
That's correct, Mayor Craig. So the changes that were made were to initially troubleshoot chemical problems within the treatment process. Our staff went through the correct process to ensure that that didn't head towards the distribution system. The reality is, once those changes were made, the valving wasn't switched back correctly, and we actually discharged what we would deem potable distribution water to the lake. That the actual discharge was potable, clean, treated water.
Councillor Inchberger?
Thank you. Which potable treated water discharge of the environment is toxic to fish and other stuff. So when this was happened, was there like a procedure in hand that actually governed these operations, or from my experience, or was this being done more from what we call skill of the trade, where there's some activities that an operator is expected to perform by virtue of their training for which they don't actually need a procedure to tell them how to do it?
So through you, Mayor Craig, we have multiple standard operating procedures for various treatment processes at the plant. This is a standard operating procedure as to how we would discharge water that may have not received full treatment. And I assume that operator was following that standard operating procedure that evening.
There's a reference in there that looks like that there was some other way on the SCADA panel for the operator to determine whether the correct icon had been selected, refers to green and stuff like that. Is part of the corrective action for this involving any sort of change in the standard operating procedure based on the experience of what occurred here, to highlight to a future operator performing this that, you know, there is some OPEX on this that occurred, and here's a way that you can verify yourself that it's properly been selected back into normal operation from wasting?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Craig. So we have a weekly tailgate meeting with all of our staff. So we walk through any alarms through the week and review process and any concerns or plans. So yes, this was reviewed with staff as far as implementing any changes to that process. We at this time are not implementing any changes. We reviewed the float system. It may have been tweaked to alarm a little bit quicker, but overall, you can see with the pure volume of water, it wouldn't have likely made a difference.
Okay. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. These are overall comments. You know, we have two very learned counselors. Thank you very much for Counselor Hirschberger and Counselor Steinhoff Gray. I'm thinking, you know, we are legally responsible for water, and you know that every one of us can go to jail if we don't actually do it right. So there's a little more emphasis on this whole thing. Thank you very much for bringing staff reports instead of putting in consent file. I think that, you know, from now on for a while, staff reports for water will have to be discussed just like we are tonight and everything. We're going to put you a little bit under the gun. And I know that you're up to it and everything else, but let's make sure that we do things right. Thank you.
Moving on, we have a COSAC mutual drain agreement. We need a mover and seconder. The council accept the COSAC mutual agreement drain report as provided and pass a bylaw to authorize the execution of the agreement. Moved and seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh and Steinhoff Gray. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you. Just an administrative sort of statement. I apologize in advance if my pacing is causing a distraction. I've had a few concerned questions from my fellow councillors. I assure you I'm okay. I just bulged a disc yesterday and sitting is very painful. I've been told by my emergency chiropractic appointments not to sit, so I will probably continue to pace a little bit, and I apologize if that's distracting you.
So we have the Bulldogs camera agreement, parks facilities. We need a mover and seconder. The council pass a bylaw to approve a 5-year agreement between the municipality of Kincardine and the Kincardine Bulldogs Club for the purposes of video streaming Junior C games at the Davidson Centre, moved by councillors Williams and Deputy Mayor Clark. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Human Resources Policy Update. We need a mover and seconder that council review and approve the updated HR 04 Health and Safety Policy Statement. The council repeal GG 6.6 Harassment Prevention Policy and approve HR 05 Harassment Prevention in the Workplace Policy. And the council repeal GG 6.7 Violence Prevention Policy and approve HR 06 Violence Prevention in the Workplace Policy. And the council repealed GG 6.10 Substance Abuse, Drug and Alcohol Policy, GG 6.11 Medical Marijuana Policy, GG 6.8 Progressive Discipline Policy, as these are replaced by Human Resources Procedures, moved by councillors Prenger and Steinhoff Gray. Any discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, I guess this question is for the council, actually, both in harassment and violent prevention policies that they're proposing under Section 4 responsibility. The Chief Administration Officer is responsible for the overall application of the policy. I agree with. When in the judgment of the Chief Administration Officer, a situation is apparent and should be communicated to council. This part I don't really agree with. I think that, you know, we need to be informed about all, whether we proceed with it or give direction. I don't want to give it up to the CAO all the time. We need to know what's going on in the staff, especially when it comes to harassment and violence. So I like to change that and say that we will be, as council members, informed of any applications. Thank you.
Could I call on our HR manager just to, you know, I'm not sure about the. I don't disagree with what Councillor Stewart's saying, but I'm not sure if we are legally able to hear some of those applications of discipline. Like what are? Tell me about the HR legalities of that, or where we sit in that. Somebody tell me. Like I hear what you're saying, Councillor Stewart, but there's, you know, there's likely privilege and confidentiality things that we may not be able to hear. I'm not sure why we couldn't, but I just want to get some more professional advice than what I know. So if you could comment on that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't necessarily have an answer for you for this point. Best practice would be that the ongoings of employment matters. It could be informal, it could be formal. These are all people, and that impacts perception of people as well too. So I'm hesitant to provide confidential information, obviously, of employees to council, but I would need to verify what our obligations are before I could comment further.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I think part of the policy is also about creating risk prevention plans. And so for some individuals, for example, if there was an individual experiencing domestic violence or having left a domestic violence situation and they're creating a safety plan, I don't necessarily know that council, it would be appropriate for us to always be aware of all of those kind of things. Like I think if there's an incident or something that's very severe and may have an impact on the broader organization, I think trusting that the CAO will bring that to us is critical. If there's some specific wording or a threshold, then I think that would be beneficial, but I don't think every single thing in the policy would need to necessarily come forward.
Councillor Stranoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, as I was listening to our HR manager, Leanne, speaking, I'm not confident we would want as a council to see all the informal interventions that are happening. I think there would be a threshold for where that concern would raise to council, and perhaps we look at what that is.
So the word that's been used twice or three times here now is threshold. And I'm wondering if CAO could give us some guidance about what might trigger a report to council about, is there a level of authority within our municipality? Is it at the director level, the manager level, the supervisor level? Where would you, what sort of guidance would you use in informing council about issues of harassments or violence? Or from your perspective, is it, no, that's not, we have the policy, council directs the policy, and our CAO and HR team implement it? Like, what is that the sort of practice that you would choose to follow, or can you help us out a little bit on that one, please?
Sure. Through you to the rest of council, the common practice, if you have a CAO, is to leave these types of matters to their discretion for the very reason they're in charge of the administration overall. The raising a particular issue to the level of council concern would be a pretty high threshold, in my opinion, if I was going to bring something forward to council. And obviously that would be in closed session, but it would be pretty significant and non-routine with respect to an organization of our size.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Just for a follow-up, from my experience being a counselor, by the time it hits the council, it's litigation. So that's what my experience was. I wasn't really talking about details because I'm not really interested in the details. I'm more interested in the number. Every year if someone said, well, we've had 3 harassment and 3, violent prevention applications, they were handled at our level. That's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for sort of the status of what's going on beneath us before it becomes an issue. And anytime it becomes an issue with us, it usually goes to legalities.
So you're trying to establish a trend within the municipal organization just to, yeah. Is that something that is beyond the level of acceptable reporting to council? Just tell me what your experience or your knowledge says. Can that somewhere along the line, could you say, we've had a good year or a bad year or something? Yeah. Can you indicate whether the trend of incidents is going up or down? You don't even have to give a number, just how are we doing? Is that something that can be reported to council?
Through you, I believe that yes, that could be reported.
Further questions about the motion? Councillor Prenger?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm all for and supportive of the process of the overall motion, replacing the older policies with the procedures and new policies, etc. I did present a couple questions to our staff. They were kind of last minute, so I luckily got a response today. Thank you. But including a markup for the policy, just with minor changes. And I just want clarification. I'm not sure if it can come from our manager or CEO on what the most appropriate process for that is in terms of it was indicated to me that they could deal with my proposed changes after the decision was made today. And I just don't know how. I mean, personally, if I was another counselor, I want to know what those proposed changes were, and they don't know, and before I would vote on it. So I don't know what the most appropriate process here is, if everybody should know about those before we vote, or because they're sort of administrative in nature mostly, that they don't need to be. They're minor enough that we can just move forward.
So I'm going to call on our manager of legislative services, who frequently is given motions and documents that grammatically and punctuality and stuff like that are inaccurate. What is the policy or the practice of legislative services in regards to making administrative typo errors or corrections and grammatical changes? How does that function within legislative services?
So staff does have the ability to make administrative changes. So if it's a grammatical, or if it's changing wording, or if it's things like that don't change the intent of the policy, then it is something that we do on a regular basis.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I did have a fellow counselor ask to see what I proposed. Am I allowed to share that via email with other counselors? Okay, thank you.
My grade 4 English teacher would be proud of the changes you made, putting in the commas in the right places and things like that. So well done. Yeah. Any further questions regarding the motion? All in favor? And that's carried. All right, so we have consideration of bylaws, the 2025 interim taxation bylaw. We need a mover and seconder that the 2025 interim taxation bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2025-001. Moved by Councillor Hinchberger and Kavanaugh. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. 2025 current operating borrowing bylaw. We need a mover and seconder that the 2025 current operating borrowing bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2025-02. Moved by Councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Blackwell. Any discussion? Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think sorry, I have to go. I accidentally clicked on the next one, and it has my notes in here. I just had trouble reading paragraph 2, to be honest. If I could get a little bit of clarification. The second part of the sentence, it says all sums borrowed pursuant to this bylaw, which makes sense, as well as all other sums borrowed pursuant to the said municipal act in this year and in previous years. This bylaw I thought was supposed to apply specifically to this year and borrowing for our current budget. So why are we mentioning previous borrowing at all?
Yeah, it's the total sum. If you want me to go and get the legislation or pull up the legislative reference, I can do so, but I'm pretty sure that's a fairly direct pull from what the legislation says in the Municipal Act.
Exactly.
So it's not just a specific this year. It is authorizing the municipality to be able to borrow money. So whether it is from accounts past or present or what's going forward in this year, it is authorizing the borrowing limits that the municipality has for any of our accounts. Okay on that? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I just need to, through you, Mayor, nice little shout out to Roxana. In the 7 years I've been a councillor, we never borrowed money. This is really like a line of credit, just in case, because taxes haven't come in. She manages money extremely well and everything. We never really have to go back and use our credit line, but it's just part of the boilerplates that everyone has to do every year, just in case. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Appoint Don Houston as acting deputy fire chief. We need a mover and seconder that the appoint Don Houston as acting deputy fire chief bylaw be deemed to be read first, second, third time. Finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2025-03, moved by councillors Inchberger and Williams. Any discussion? Congratulations to Don in stepping in to fulfill this role. Congratulations to Mr. Cottrell, who served very, very well in our municipality for a long time. So all in favor of this? And that's carried. Motion to pass bylaws. We need a mover and seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, third time. Finally passed the 8th of January 2025. Amend zoning bylaw 2003-25. 517 Concession 7 Municipality of Kincardine. Campbell bylaw. Kozak Mutual Agreement Drain Bylaw, Kincardine Bulldogs Video Agreement, Health and Safety Policy Statement Bylaw, Harassment Prevention in the Workplace Policy, and Violence Prevention in the Workplace Policy, moved by councillors Steinoff, Gray, and Hinchberger. All in favor? Those are carried. Consent agenda. Items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and are passed in one motion. Of course, the exception is that any council member may request one or more items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion or action either this evening or in a subsequent meeting. Are there any reports that you would like to withdraw for discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I actually have 3, but not to poll, 2 for comments and 1 to poll. And I think you and I need to probably pull that one together. But actually, let's go with the first one, which is 8.1AA, which is our development service report. And if you just take a quick look at that, under the monthly end report, November 24, you can definitely see something's happened with the permit value for November for this year was 640,000 compared to last year at 17 million. We seem to be having a slight trend if you look at that report going down. Just it's not a concern, it just could be a timing issue and anything else. But I thought we'd be up, but it seems that there might be something going on we don't know about, but it's just basically a comment for now. The other report I like to pull, and I believe that my fellow counselor probably has something to say about this one too, is 8.1AB corporate services. I think we need to at least make a statement, and I'm hoping my fellow counselor Steinoff Gray will make a statement. Under 3, it's the new water meter implementation. Mark, are you okay with this? There is some issues around it. It's been discussed there was a meeting, plus it's being discussed with the staff. So I just wanted to make an announcement that to the public that this is being reviewed. That's it. No more right tonight. Save you. And the other one I like to talk about and to actually pull, and I believe it's 8.1CB. And I think the mayor and I have been working on this one. This is Carol Blake. Yeah, it's 8.1CB, I think. It's Carol Blake. This group actually is the rural, it's in Ward 2, but this is a Ward 3. This is right across the board. The rural people are having problems getting good internet service. And there's an opportunity now. And Carol's been working with the mayor and myself and Lisa and everything else. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too late to do a delegation, but we'll see what happens. But we also want to put support. There's a new program, the OnSat, the satellite sort of thing that would really help the rural people getting better internet. So it's something I think we need to pull and support. There is a funding program and everything for June, and I'm not sure if I'm too early, but I want to make sure this comes up. And I know that the mayor would like to probably talk about this at county council too, because this is just not Kincardine. This is everybody outside the major area. So I just like to pull a report, and we'll be bringing it forward and be talking to our MPPs and everything else, see if we can help the people out in the rural get better service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think, with council's concurrence, we could direct, ask staff to, write a letter indicating municipal support of the application. It doesn't cost, the municipality anything. It's only just a letter from the municipality saying, yes, we agree that there should be funding available here in Southern Ontario as well as Northern Ontario as well. So with your concurrence, we can just direct staff to do that. I would be happy to sign that and send it off to the appropriate authorities. So if, would you like to make a motion to direct staff to write that letter of support, Councillor Stewart?
Yes, the motion would be to have the staff to write a letter of recommendation signed by, on behalf of the council, the mayor, in support of this whole program for the municipality of Kincardine. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Pranger. Any further discussion? Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you. So I had just been looking at the Infrastructure Ontario website about this, and it was talking about spring 2025 was applications. Is that applications for communities, or is that applications for individual businesses?
Both.
Both? Okay.
We can get staff to confirm what the answer to that is. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Did we have the vote already? All in favor of that? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, so we need mover and seconder. The council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda. Direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative action. Moved by councillors Williams and Hinchberger. All in favor? And that carried. Member of council, general announcements. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, through you. First of all, I hope everyone had a very lovely holiday break. I am excited to be attending a grant presentation next week for the bridge. They're receiving some provincial funding to support them to create a free food store, which will help supplement and expand what's available in our town for those who are food insecure. And I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the many individuals who donated and the organizations who coordinated the various Christmas hamper campaigns, including the Tiverton Lions and the Kincardine Community Christmas Hamper Program. I think it helped close to 600 families across, or 600 individuals across our community. And I know that that was something that was greatly appreciated by those who were able to celebrate a Merry Christmas with that extra support.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention Councillor Blackwell and I had an open house for some community members to kind of do a bit of a meet and greet yesterday, and we had some really great participation and some really great insight and feedback that I'm looking forward to kind of sift through and hopefully do more of these in the future.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, we will be putting the Tiverton Lions and a few other communities like the Agriculture Society and everything. We're going ahead, Lori, this is for you. We're going ahead with Tiverton Winterfest, and we're doing it on the family weekend, 15th, 16th, 17th. So as we get a little closer, we might ask our fellow staff, maybe you can help me with the poster or, something, but we will be putting that on. So we're looking forward to a little snow and have a little fun activity. So everyone's more than welcome to come. Thank you.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you. I really hope there's snow because I always enjoy the snow or ice sculptures, whatever they become. And with that, I wanted to also just kind of recognize the community in Tiverton. I know they've been our test ground for the new meters, and they were very pleasant when they came out to meet with us at the open house Councillor Stewart and myself held. And I just really appreciated the feedback and the time they took to come talk to us and willingness to have that discourse.
Councillor Pranger, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to announce on the back of the press release that the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority headquarters will be reopening next week in Formosa, just in time for our annual meeting at the end of the week, which is nice. And I think we're all very excited to get back in there.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone. And I have no announcements tonight.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
I have no announcements either, Your Honor.
Deputy Mayor.
No announcements.
From myself, there will be some members of council be heading off to the Rural Ontario Municipality Association in Toronto to entertain some delegations with provincial ministers and ministries advocating for our community, and also do a lot of networking. I really had a false misconception of what conferences were until you get to go to the first one and you come home and you're exhausted. Like you gotta be on your game for 3 days, and the mental exhaustion is huge. So we continue to do our best. I appreciate Jalene's work in coordinating along with Bruce County, the delegations, and will we come home with a big check? No, but we will advocate. That's our job. Okay. CAO, please.
No announcements tonight, thanks.
Wow. Are we over or under yet? On track. All right, so we need a mover and a seconder. The council move into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering the closed session minutes dated December 11, 2024, and labor relations or employee negotiations and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically the organizational review, and further the council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Kavanaugh. All in favor? And that's carried. Yep.